Okay, let's start that again. Introduce yourselves, please.
My name is James Cooper, and I am 25 years old.
Yes, sir.
My name is Martez Warren Jr. and I am 17 years old.
And at what age did you get started playing what instrument?
That's too personal.
Oh, please don't ask that.
Really, ever since I can remember, I guess I started out on the drums. I was at Godfather's Church on the East Coast. Had an interest. I was probably 2 years old. Picked up some sticks and started beating stuff.
Okay. And yourself, sir?
I started playing the keyboard, I think at the age of 12, I believe.
Okay. And what was your interest in doing this? Why did you choose to pick these instruments and play in church?
Me personally, one day my father, he's a pastor, he was preaching, and he didn't have no musician, so I just got on the keyboard and started following him. Tried my best, and after that, I took off from there.
Okay. So you did it as a way of trying to help your father?
Yeah.
Because the lack thereof?
Yeah.
Okay. James?
I just had an interest in it. I was always around music. My god brother was our church pianist. My godfather was the pastor. So, and my mom was the praise and worship leader. So I was naturally around it a lot. And the drums, I guess the beat is the first thing you normally hear. You associate, at least in my head, with the black church, if you will. So the drums were my first choice.
Do you believe that you were, as we say in church, called, you held the calling of Christ to be these musicians? Or it was just something that you saw and said, hey, I want to do that. That looks cool.
Well, now I believe I am called to do music and praise and worship. But back then, I was too young to know,
Okay, and why do you believe that now you believe that you were called?
Well, first, my father, him being a pastor, and then everyone in my family is, either a praise and worship leader or a pastor or, do intercessory prayer. So I just believe that, it runs in the family. And then after that, I just read the word and the Bible. And then I just feel for my personal self that I was called to lead praise and worship.
Now, also within this, I play the devil's advocate on questions. Okay, so just because I asked the question, that don't mean that that's what I'm personally thinking.
Right.
Okay, because people is for research. So if your family was a family of drug dealers, would you feel that you were called to be a drug dealer also? It's just because after that everyone in the family is heavily involved in church activity, in music, in some kind of way, or ministry, I should say, then you feel that that's within your bloodline. Okay. Do you feel that you were called?
I feel similar to Martez. At the age when I started, I was just going after whatever interest I had, and it was music. I knew I wanted to do music of some sort, and I was always in church, so that was kind of where I was reared. So naturally, that's kind of where I stayed. Not to say that that's not the only place I did music. I believe that God gives us these gifts that we're supposed to share, with the world. And if you're versed in a certain direction, be it church, be it whatever, that's the platform that God's giving you to share your gifts. So I believe I'm called to do music, and not just in church, not just as a church musician, but to share my gift with the world in as many aspects as I possibly can.
Okay. So you believe you were called to be a musician?
Yeah, musician.
Okay. Who was your mentors coming up, seeing them play, and it's like, man, I want to, the way they played the drums, the way they played the keyboard, the way they sing. Mm-hmm. Who was your mentors that you looked up to?
For me, I could say Derico Lloyd, Devon and Dewan Murphy, and also William Murphy.
Okay. Why? Why them?
Because because first of all, their music spoke to me personally. So, I wanted to take after what they was doing and, put my own stuff to it too. But I just love what they was doing. So I just said, I look up to these guys.
And that was in your beginning days.
Yeah.
Are they still the same ones today? Or has it broadened or isolated?
I still do some of their things, follow some of their steps, but now I'm doing me now.
Okay. James?
I had a few musical influences. Starting off from the drums, our church drummer, whatever church drummer was at the time, I would always fixate on what he was doing. At the time, it was my godbrother's friend named Jovan. From there, it expanded. Tony Royster Jr. Was a huge influence of mine. That's Jay-Z's drummer now. Marvin McQuitty was Fred Hammond's drummer at the time. We used to listen to a lot of Fred Hammond. So from the drum side, it was that. I used to go to Burning Bush Church in Ypsilanti, Michigan, where Pastor Shelby's a pastor. And one of Commission's old members was the musical director, Marcus Cole. And I don't know if you ever heard him sing before, but
yes.
He's from Saginaw. But his tone and his rasp is something that just kind of caught me, like from early on. I was like, this dude's sick. So that was kind of, I was always behind them just watching them. I got kicked off the drums all the time because I don't like pocket. And pocket, y'all know what pocket is. Pocket is keeping it simple. Okay. For which I don't know, pocket is chick, boom, chick. I want to be like,
you want to have some experimentals.
Yeah. So he was like, all the time, probably 20 times. So I was just always watching them and listening for what they would do. And I remember when I was younger, when I first started going to Burning Bush, I couldn't see because there was so many people standing up, but I could hear. And the sound that was created was something that just captivated me.
How did that make you feel when you couldn't see it because so many people was in your way? In your way, in your view.
Like, I would like to be able to see something because not only, I guess that was in my 12-year-old days, but before that, the drummer there was J.R. Lamont at Burning Bush, and that's like pretty much my godbrother.
Okay.
And he's around the Detroit area, but same thing. I could hear it, I couldn't see it. As long as I could hear it, I was cool.
Okay.
I was slightly frustrated that I couldn't see, but we had a timeliness issue, so I was always in the back of the church. I didn't get there time to get up to the front. So as long as I could hear it, I was cool.
Did you feel that you had a freedom within the church because you had such a hunger to learn the instrument? Did you feel that you had a freedom to walk up there and watch? No. I felt that would have been, at the time, that would have been weird or out of my place. So just from the aura of the church, or shyness within?
I would say shyness within.
Okay.
And a little bit of both, because to elaborate on that question a little bit, further on in life, where I was in church and the spirit wasn't really, you could tell when the spirit's moving. It was just kind of dry, and I was asked to come to minister, so I was like, I'll come, I'll do it, and I felt something shift in the spirit, so I went up and I proceeded to, usher in the spirit.
Now, when you say minister, was that like grab the mic, preach, or
no? I was singing. I was called there to sing.
Okay.
So they called me minister, but I was there to sing. So and I did that, and thinking, okay, because I feel this shift in the spirit, it's necessary right now, but there's still a certain order in the church that is kind of trained, and that's engraved, that you can't just do that all the time. You do that at a bishop's church or some other church, that won't fly. That won't fly. So it's a
higher standard at a bishop's church than it is at an elder's church.
I would say if the church is bigger in magnitude, there seems to be more places of order, whereas you'll have security guards here or something like that. So you can't just walk up there. Hold on. Like if I did that Joel Osteen church, I might get shot.
Exactly.
I'm just playing. But you see what I'm saying?
Definitely.
There's whereas if it's a storefront church, they want you. If you're sitting back there and you can do music and the service is dry and someone's just yelling off key and there's an open piano, they're like, come on, big boy, come on. But if it's
Whosoever will.
Yeah. So there's a difference.
Gotcha.
Long story short.
No problem. Who invested in your start? Was it you? Somebody paid for you to get lessons, or you was in the school band, or just by watching and on the job training?
Y'all keep. I would say a combination of both, or all.
Okay.
Two. I took traditional band. I played the saxophone and marimba and percussion and all that in school band, so I can sight read and I can read music for the better part. Aside from that, it was just my desire to learn this thing. I mean, obviously, your parents back you for a certain amount of time. So my mom invested in me, got me my first professional drum set. So that was key for my, I guess, learning, at least on the drum side. And pretty much any instrument I wanted to experiment with, she was like, cool, go ahead. And luckily, we were in a place, thankfully we were in a place where she could
financially afford
that. I didn't have lessons in many instruments. I had a few drum lessons here and there, but most of it was just me listening and trying to mimic what I heard. And that's still, to this day, kind of what I do, and try to create my own little spin on it too. So all the above.
And yourself, sir?
Oh, same as what James said. My father, he invested
So
in
his
me.
mother invested in you too?
No, I'm sorry. My father, he put me in piano lessons, and it went on from there. He got me a keyboard.
How did you like the piano lessons?
At first it was fun, but then I got tired of learning from someone else, so I wanted to learn on my own. So he bought me a keyboard so I can learn on my own.
Did you? How long did you stick with it? Because I know if you're going to get lessons, I know they're teaching you theory.
Yeah, theory.
How far did you stick with that?
I think I stuck with it for like 3 months, 4 months, and then I left.
Can you identify the grand staff? Bass clef, treble clef, middle C.
No, I can't remember all that.
Okay, got you. What was your first gig? Okay, someone you've practiced, you put the hours in, you done burned the midnight oil, and now you at a level to where you get that first phone call. What was that first gig that was like, man, somebody heard me, somebody calling me to come sing, and not at your home church, but outside. Someone outside said, hey, we want you to come. And did you get paid for it? And if you did, you don't have to share the amount unless you want to.
It's hard to remember my first gig, 'cause I was always asking church to come out and play, but you said outside the church. So when I moved to Michigan, I was in the Pontiac area, and there was a church called Not on Silent. There was a church called Antioch, and they had a choir that was in the Pontiac area that some of the members of Antioch participated in. They called AVOP, Anointed Voices of Praise.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a event that they had to go sing at, and their drummer for whatever reason couldn't make it, so they asked me to stand in. So I said, no problem, I'll do it. He said, we'll throw you a little something, and I was happy to just go play. I was nervous because I had been kicked off so much. I was like, y'all sure y'all want me to play? Because when I play, I play.
Putting everything I got into the intro.
Right. Get the drumming song, the whole song. But no, that was my first gig. I don't remember if I got paid for it or not. I think they said they were going to throw me something, and they never did.
They actually threw it.
Yeah, right. I wasn't even tripping off of it because I was just happy to
play
someplace, and that was my first time on the drums. So
I honestly can't remember.
You're only 17.
And I can't remember. So it goes back for the first story, I guess.
Okay.
My dad, it was an opportunity to play for my father. I didn't get paid for it.
Hopefully you can remember this next question then. What song established you as a real player or a real singer? Mm-hmm. I know a musician in Lansing back in the day, early 80s. It was a song, "The Harvest is Right," and the way he played it, it was just that established him. For my wife, when she played Kojic, let everything that has breath praise the Lord. Dun, 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 dun. It was an anthem, and that established her. It's like when people heard that, it was like, your wife is bad. Your wife can play.
Yeah.
Up until then, okay, yeah. But certain songs established certain people. Do y'all remember what your first song was? That's kind of like you remember your first kiss?
On the piano, right? On the
Piano, singing, drums.
Singing, I would feel like there was a song by John P. Key called "Hold Out" or "Lord Help Me to Hold Out."
Lord, help me to hold out. Gotcha.
And he had the solo part. I was in kids choir. And
All right.
I had the solos. I was like, yeah.
My way might be easy.
Yeah. But once again, I mean, in your home church, they're always going to give you that love, especially at a young age. If you're doing anything, you be doing jumping jacks, and they're going to be like, go for it.
Do you think that's safe?
No.
Why?
It goes deeper for me than for church, but not everyone deserves a trophy for everything that they do.
I did a small study on when you hit a certain nerve for people, or when they lying, they'll look up and look right because they're looking back into their memory.
Yeah.
And you was there for a minute. Yeah. He's like, nah. And that movie just started playing for you. It's like, so please share that.
I don't think that's my thinking spot. And it's your left now because we getting right
definitely.
Now. I don't think that's safe because I just say not everyone deserves a trophy for everything that they do. And even outside of church, you get a lot of people or a lot of kids that, like in the soccer game, the championship game, somebody has to win, someone has to lose. The winner gets a trophy, the loser doesn't, right?
Exactly.
But you don't say, "Yay, you lost! Everybody happy." Like you can't establish that because that's not how life really is. So that's why I think it's not safe to establish that kind of thing at a young age until they understand why you're getting praise because you did something good. Not just because.
You remember your first song, sir?
My first song was, I think, "Amazing Grace." I played and sung it.
The traditional hymn.
Amazing Grace.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. You played and sung it for yourself. How did that feel?
It felt good because, first of all, I learned it by myself. But I messed up a little bit because it was my first, it was really... But, yeah, that's what got me started and established.
That was the end of the first segment of questions. That was your history. What got you here? Y'all said a couple things, and I'm just going to piggyback off of it before I go into the next segment. When churches clap for the kids, because this is still our history point, and that child was watching TV Saturday night, did not study, did not practice all week, but then they're put up there on Sunday. How do you feel as the musician when you see that? When, okay, little Shanae about to sing the song, and she's sitting up there looking all, crazy, and she halfway singing, she started crying, and first thing they always say, oh, she's shy. Me personally, you're not shy. It's like, because if I had candy for you right now, if I promised you McDonald's right now, you'll perk up. When you came in here, you talked to everybody that you wanted to talk to, but now that it's time for you to do something, now you're shy. How do y'all feel as musicians when you see that happen in church, and the church still, yay, they encourage that? Or do you see it as encouraging at all? Do I need to pause the tape?
I guess I don't. There's no particular feeling that comes to mind. Just I wonder what she's about to sing, and I wonder if I'll be able to find what key she in. Honestly, those are the first two thoughts that come to mind, and I just try to do that. Okay.
When you have done that, have you ever had a parent come and tell you that you messed their child up? You rose up. Oh, how did that make you feel when Huh?
I feel bad.
You felt bad that you got called out, or felt bad that you're right, I did mess your child up?
No, I felt bad that she called me out when her child didn't do what she was supposed to do the night before, and she sat up there and told me.
Really?
Yeah.
She told you the story.
She told me her daughter did not practice last night. And I said, so you gonna blame me for what your daughter did? She messed up.
You see? It's like, I'm like, where is she? Get that boy a hug.
Come back. I wish you.
Is that something that you have experienced more? Yeah, you want to take your coat off?
I hear him out real quick. Good question. Camera on here.
Hey, this is Real Talk, Real Stories. Okay, so obviously it made you upset. It brought back heat up on you right now. What did you feel like doing in the midst of that? Or was there another time where, okay, now she about to sing again and you got to play for her?
It wasn't another time.
Okay.
Well, in the midst of it, I held my temper.
Okay.
I let it go. I said, I'm sorry. I apologize. But
So you took the humble road.
yeah, humble.
Okay. That goes into next segment of questions, deals with your experiences. And the first question is, what is the difference between a musician and a minstrel? Or do you see a difference at all?
I really don't. I don't see a difference, but is a minstrel? Is it like is minstrels like is more orderly?
In the Bible, I want to make sure I call this right. 2 Kings 3:15, Prophet Elisha says, "Bring me a minstrel and I'll prophesy." Not that he couldn't, because in 2 Kings, first chapter, the guards came to him and they said, the king want to see you. And he said, if I be a man of God, let fire come down from heaven and burn up you and your 50. And it happened. Second group came, said the same thing to him. If I be a man of God, burn up. In second chapter, 42 kids was teasing him because he had a bald head. And they followed him all throughout the city. You bald head, you bald head. So he called for a she-bear, a female bear, to come out the woods and kill up 42 kids. Mm-hmm. So he had power to do whatever he felt like doing. You think of if a man of God today has a bear on his call, come out and kill 42 kids anywhere in America, that would hit major news.
Called murder.
Exactly. That's like, how could you? But this was a man of God in the Bible that had these things happen. But when the king said, I need someone to interpret this dream, get Elijah. Elijah said, if you bring me a minstrel, I'll prophesy. Mm-hmm. So, to me, that shows, he didn't say musician, he said minstrel. Mm-hmm. So that shows a big difference. Yeah. And he could have did it. He could have said whatever he wanted to say, what God told him to say about the dream. But he said, first I need a minstrel, then I'll prophesy. So, that's just my little Bible study. Give me an offering later. Do you see a difference between musician, minstrel? And don't take off of the story that I just gave.
I was going to say that. Well, yeah, I do now.
Okay. What would you say the difference is? Or you need to...
A musician? Okay, well, can I say a church musician?
Yes, sir. That's what we're talking about, church musicians.
Okay. So a church musician, I feel like a church musician is in it for the money. And the church musician may be, hop from church to church, hop from church. It's a grasshopper.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So a minstrel is more, I want to do it for Christ. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that's how I feel.
James?
I feel like the difference between the two is one ushers in the presence of God and one maybe doesn't. A minstrel, that's their job, is to usher in the presence of God through music. And a musician just plays music, I guess.
Have you ever heard of a church advertise for the position using the terminology, we need a minstrel? Or do you always hear, we need a new musician? Or we looking for a musician?
I always hear, we're looking for a new musician.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you think that they are knowledgeable of what the Bible says on the minstrel? Or they just it's not a big deal. So we
I
just
guess.
say musician.
Yeah, I guess, nowadays everybody say musician, so that's what. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I've seldom heard
The word
someone
minstrel.
look. You hear the deep people call you minister, prophet, minstrel. The
Deep.
Yeah.
Deep Faith Sunday, everyone.
The deep church.
What does the title Minister of Music mean?
I always took the minister of music of someone who was a musician that was an ordained minister too, as well.
Okay.
That's just how I always seen it. I don't know if it just so happens that all the musicians that I knew were ministers as well, so they were just always called the minister of music. But to me, that's what it is. Minister, you have to be an ordained minister to be in that position. Otherwise, you're just a musician or a minstrel.
Okay. So if I'm an ordained minister, the word ordained means I went through a particular process. Some kind of test, some kind of series, studies, and then hands were laid upon me to some degree, and I became a minister. And because I am a musician, if they hire me, then that ordination that took place at whoever's church in whoever city, whoever state, follows me everywhere I go, and they trust it. And now I'm the minister of music here. I was the minister of music there. I was the minister of music there, and that's validated.
No. What I mean by that is, in order to be a minister of music, you would have to be a minister first.
Okay.
And then if you did go from different church to different church, at least what I've seen is first you're a musician, and then, because a lot of times many churches have different musicians. You have drummer, piano, organ, guitar, etc., etc. So that ordination of that house as ministry of music would have to come from like the pastor or something like that, where it's saying, okay, you're over our entire, everything happens via music. You're over the ministry of music. You're over everything.
Okay.
To me, that's a ministry of music.
When you become a pastor, when you become a bishop, is there a process?
Yeah.
Have you seen the process? Have you seen a pastor, or know of a pastor that is a pastor that they went through some kind of process, or you was at the installation service or the ordination service of any of these bishops, pastors, ministers? My friend about to get ordained this Sunday, and we going over there to, support him. Have you ever sat in on any of those services? Mm-hmm. Have you seen any of those services take place for the minister of music? Why do you think that is if we hold such a high rank of importance within the church? Do I need to stop tape?
No.
That's something to think about.
Yeah, this is on the spot. I gotta look to my upper right.
Let me go back over there again.
Spot.
Have you ever heard of a musician telling you that, hey, I'm about to become minister of music, and I'm having an installation service or ordination service. Hands about to be laid upon me. I went through a course, a series, whatever. Because do we or do we not agree that minister of music is a high important position within the church? You're ministering more than the pastor per se, as far as you're playing prelude, you're playing praise and worship, you're playing for choir, you're playing for offering time, you're playing for announcements, you're backing up the preacher only preaching one time, he ain't doing all that. So you are the ongoing worker within the church. Mm-hmm. Shouldn't there be something in place that establishes us before we become that minister of music? Mm-hmm. Okay, so what's been the how should I say, the traditional way that you've seen people become minister of music? Let's say I'm going to Faith Tabernacle Church of God in Christ over there on Fleming Road, and they have an advertisement for a musician. Do I come in with paperwork and, I've graduated from this college, I have this music degree, I I'm skilled in these areas and da 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 da. I lay hands, this, that, and the other, and I'm put through a test? Or is it, can you play? Let me hear you play. Or I've heard you play. You play it somewhere? How much they paying you? I can do better than that. You want to play here? You busy this Sunday? Can you be here this Sunday? Okay, I'll take care of you. Which one has been the more noticeable, higher end situation?
Second scenario.
Why do you think that is? If it's so important, if it's such a integral part of our today's church experience, our yesterday's church experience, music has always been within the church.
You clear like you was about to say something.
Oh, that's so cool.
I just the way it's always been done, I guess. Not everyone does it like that either.
True.
But that's just the way I've always seen it kind of play out.
And would you say that your experience is pretty broad? As far as you haven't just been locked down to one church your whole life.
No,
You've seen plenty.
Yeah, and I've got friends that are musicians too, and it's,
so that makes it even more broad.
Yeah,
and then they got friends, and then that makes it even more broad.
Yeah. But there are churches that, for instance, I know New Bethel, out in Pontiac, that they have kind of somewhat of a process. I mean, it's you have to actually prove your stuff. Like, I have to read music, and they were popping questions left and right. So it was, there was a panel there, so in that instance, there was more to it. But I think it depends on the need of the church, too. Because if their musician just quit Saturday and they got a Sunday service, and they can talk to you real quick and say, what you doing tomorrow? Because without the musicians, a lot of times the service won't flow like a lot of pastors want it to flow.
So it's very important.
It's become very important, yeah. I would say in maybe the Church of God in Christ or the Full Gospel or some church, the Catholic Church, they have organists too, but I see sometimes they can get away without it. Some of it's not called church, but like the Muslims, they don't have full-on band concerts like we do. They sing and they come, and the Catholic Church, a lot of its architectures so that the voice will be magnified and the tone would be very distinct. That's what makes a lot of the Catholic churches what they are. Is when you get in there and you sing. So in this case, as a church musician, that's how I've seen it.
Okay.
But I've only played at 4 or 5 churches in my lifetime. So
easy question: what's been your worst experience as a church musician?
My worst.
Going back to that woman again.
No, I feel like, just when a pastor yells at the musician.
Okay.
I feel yes, it is criticism, but when you take it to another level, and you just yelling at me and trying to give me or say I'm not your musician, but you say you need a musician.
I'm helping you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. So. So I'm a bishop.
Yes.
And my musician didn't show up. And I say I need you to play.
So I'm helping you.
Yeah, you help me.
Yes.
So you play for me, but then you start messing up because I don't know your flow. Because you don't know my flow. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So you start yelling at me. So that's one of my worst experiences, and it still happened to this day. I just can't. I don't like it sometimes.
It happened on the floor. You was helping the bishop out. Their musician didn't show up, and they started basically open humiliation, embarrassing you right there on the floor. And now you're nervous because you got 100 to maybe 150, 200 people looking at you, and some people is pointing and laughing. Yeah. And now you're nervous. You're nervous to the point where I can't. You need to take the scarf off now. Well, get you a bath towel by the time you get that. Man, you shouldn't ask me all these questions. Okay. Do you think that was necessary?
No, I don't think it was necessary.
Did they come to you beforehand? And my musician didn't show up. If you can,
it was I was at his church, and he just seen me. He know I can play.
I see.
Yeah,
So there was no kind of preparation.
No
Just follow me soft, stay up under me. Don't follow too close.
none of that. Just
Was there any kind of appreciation, even though I've embarrassed the stank out you?
at the end, give God some praise for this. For this. Just took that last
He can take a beating, y'all. He can take a beating. Keep on taking. That's a Timex musician. I see. What about you, James?
Wow. I've been kicked off the drums so much. I can't pick out one instance. And I wouldn't necessarily call it detrimental, but it definitely had some negative effect. I didn't like the way it made me feel, as in, I'm just trying to do my thing. Why is it a problem? I understand now, but at the time I was a lot younger. And similar to Martez, even to this day, pastors can be very demanding in the sound that they want, and very open about letting you know that that's not the sound they want in the moment. Now, I attribute music to sports. So, like a football team, you have your coach, right? And they're constantly screaming at the players. But it's, what are they screaming? To tell me I'm wrong is one thing, but to tell me how I should be doing it to make it better is the other thing.
That's
if
the
you
corrective.
can tell me what you want, you can scream as much as you want, but just yelling to say that's not it, that's not helping anybody. That's just making everything just freeze up.
Do you think they do it off a power trip because they have the mic and you don't?
No, I just think they do it because they don't know how to tell you what they want. They just know when it's not it. Because a lot of the pastors aren't musicians. So, or they might like music or know what it sounds like, but they won't know how to tell you, go to the 4, go to the 5, go to A flat, play that minor right there. That's what I'm looking for. Stay there. This is, you just, no! No! I'm
All these sharp cuts.
That's helping me. Like, thanks.
You're giving me good direction now.
Right, how about nothing? Shall we clap?
Have you ever felt like getting up and just leaving?
Oh yeah, plenty of times.
How come you didn't?
Because that would have caused a bigger scene, and it would have just been, it would have made it worse. So you just stay there, just like when you see that the football players, they get reamed out when they get a penalty, they get pulled out of the game. They can't just go put their head down and they got to get back in the game. So you got to stay in the game.
Okay. What was you about to say, sir? Same.
Yeah, it's similar to it.
Got to stay in the game. Got to take that beating. Football, I'm not coming against football, but football is not the praise to God.
Right.
These things that we do of spiritual matters that we feel that either we have been called to or we feel this urgency to help you in your ministry, and your return is yelling at me on the floor, embarrassing me in front of the people, and then clap for me barely at the end. Football, I was hired on, or I wanted to be on this team. It's a sport, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the spiritual things of God.
Right.
Got you. Okay. When I say these 3 words, you tell me how they relate to you or how they relate to church musicians, period. I just say 3 words. Whatever comes to your head, share the story. Sex, drugs, and shouting.
What comes to mind?
Yes. As a church musician, when I say sex, when I say drugs, when I say shouting. Shouting, of course, is...
I would say both.
Don't incriminate yourselves.
I'm not. What comes to mind? A lot of things come to mind. I would say that church musicians have sometimes, and even outside of musicians, church officials, because a musician is kind of an official, if you will, like a minister of music or like a pastor, like a bishop or what have you, have an, what's the word I want to say? There's been connection between, we'll say, sex, drugs, and church officials.
Okay.
Historically. You see it more than you probably want to. But it's
in
there.
church.
In church. Church, I don't want. I'm not trying to. I don't want this to turn into the preachers of LA. So I'm trying to be careful about how I'm saying what I'm saying. But I mean, there's dirt in the church.
Okay.
There's dirt,
and that we all aware of, and we, it's a hospital. You come sick. We understand that.
To your first two words, in short, you can erase everything I said before. There's dirt in the church.
Okay.
For sex and drugs. As far as shouting goes, as a musician, that's just a form of music you play.
Okay.
That's
sex, drugs, shouting. As a church musician,
I really don't. I mean, I don't know if it's true or not, but I believe that. Well, from what I see, girls, they throw themselves at musicians. I guess
Okay.
Or they like a musician. If you can play that piano or you can play them drums, they
Got you.
So that's what and that's when the hey, that's when it's
I've heard musicians say, I play them sexy chords. I'm like, what in the world's a sexy chord? I've played for years. What makes a chord sexy? But it's a new terminology that has arrived, and
that's the first time I heard that. That's interesting.
I'm playing. I'm a traditional player. I'm old school, and I guess I don't have the sexy chords because the new generation. I'm not saying you, but your age bracket. I've heard a lot of people in your age bracket be like, "Man, he playing them sexy chords. Man, look at it. That's some sexy." I'm like, "What's sexy? What's sexy about a chord?" I never got that. That's like saying that's a sexy table. Right. I'm like, really? You need help. That's what my mind is at. But as you were saying, women, they throw themselves at musicians.
Sexy chords.
Yeah. So that's what
Do you believe that? Do you believe that church musicians need to be drug tested?
Do I believe that they should?
Yes. Or is that an oxymoron sound? Church musician drug tested? Where are you giving us a measurement?
I guess if it's your employer, if the church is your employer, and if everyone at church that's employed by the church is getting drug tested, then they have the right to do so, I guess.
Okay.
What my personal opinion is, no. I personally, my personal opinion is that even the corporate employers don't really have the right to drug test because what you do in your personal life outside of what you're at work is your business. If you show up to work and you do your job, that's what you're there to do. You're not there to regulate my life outside. If I want to snort some stuff, even though it's biblically not right, then that's on me, right? To take that a step further, you have an epidemic that's happening in the world with prescription drugs that
definitely
get you just as high as the cocaine, as the crack, as the whatever else, if not higher. But they're legal, and in the corporate world, you can pop as much pills as you want to, and you'll always pass clean. But so it's if you're going to drug test all the drugs, or don't test any of the drugs.
Gotcha.
That's my take on it. As a church musician, my take is if you're going to test the drugs, test all the drugs. Okay. So
I like that.
it's like okay, the musician, he likes to snort a little something, but then the pastor got 3 vials of Vicodin in his desk drawer. He just popped 2 of them. But that's okay because he got a broken arm.
Yeah, because he had surgery.
But that's not drugs because he got an arm. If you're going to test it. If you're not. So
Gotcha.
It's your opinion.
Gotcha. What you say, sir? You don't want to answer that?
No,
okay, no problem. Go ahead.
Oh. Well,
was that a drug effect? Was that a drug effect?
No, I don't want to. I'm not saying because I don't do drugs.
I'm just messing.
Still don't. You want to clarify that? I don't do drugs. That's the one answer.
I understand. So if the let's say the musician, he's running a little late. Service starts at 11. He gets there 11:05. He's coming down the aisle, and you can smell the skunk on him. Mm-hmm. You can smell the skunk weed strong. Mm-hmm. But he gets on the organ, and he makes things happen when he play. Is that acceptable? I mean, the big question is, we know what we smell in church. Mm-hmm. The pastor, he is not crazy. He or she is not crazy. They know.
Right.
Did God get the praise? After everything that happened in that service, did all glory go to God? Come on in. Come on in, man. What's up? I'm doing an interview right now. You want to sit in? Sure. Cool, because yes.
Still going?
Yes. Do God get the praise at the end of that service?
Me personally, I say no.
You say no. Why?
First of all, I don't think the spirit. The spirit ain't gonna move because God don't. I don't believe that God allows foolishness in the spirit.
Got you. Mm-hmm. Do you think it's going on today strong, or is that what I've pointed out? Is that going on today in the church within the church musician world? We come in intoxicated, we come in high, but we still know how to get on and make things happen. And we say, didn't we give God some praise? Didn't we have a time? Is that going on today?
Yeah, I have seen it, yeah.
How did it make you feel?
Horrible. I didn't like it at all, honestly.
Okay. Position versus power. Have you ever been hired as the musician? You've given the position, but you're not given the power to make the decisions that this position requires. And if so, share the story if you can. Or know of someone.
I know someone.
Okay.
Not personally, but there was a church I was playing at in Pontiac, and it was myself and one of my other buddies. He was on keys, I was on drums, and the church had an organ, and they were looking for an organist for a while. So they put out an ad. Maybe a few weeks went by, and they got a response from someone around the corner who was kind of a novice at organ. He could only play in like one key or so. And just didn't really have the full repertoire. But they brought him in, and because they liked him, they made him the minister of music in about like 2 months' time.
So they ordained him.
Very informally. There wasn't a service.
Okay.
But yes, they started addressing him as the minister of music, and to your point, he was the one of the ones you can smell it on heavy when he came in. He had a baby. He wasn't married. He had a baby while he was serving in that position. That's just as dangerous, if you will, as the drug situation, sex drug. But he was the minister of music just because they liked him. And he had nowhere near the skill set to flow. But they just liked this person. So they made him a minister of music.
I see. Musicians that play in the church and they play in the club. What's your thoughts on that? I can wake up tomorrow morning, Sunday morning, and I can make $400 Sunday morning playing at, X church. But then Sunday night, I can go downtown to, one of the local clubs here, and I can play a set, and I can get another $300-400. I'm providing for my family. I have a wife and 3 daughters. Is that right? Is that acceptable? Is that cool?
It depends on who you ask.
I'm asking you.
In my opinion, you were to share your gift with the world, and I say my opinion because I do. I play in the secular world,
okay,
and that's part of how I provide for myself. When I leave here later on tonight, I'm going to go play at a restaurant where they're serving alcohol.
Gotcha.
Am I getting drunk at the bar with the rest of them? No, because I'm in the world but not of the world. But at the same time, who will say that those people can't be the recipients of the gift that God's given me? And that's my take on it, personal take. I think everyone has a different take, but I see a lot of musicians that do it. If they're doing it, they must be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
To that end, if I was to be in the church as a musician and only a church musician, then the church would need to provide in that manner. And a lot of times they can't or they won't. So you've got to make ends meet how you've got to make ends meet from the business standpoint of it.
Okay. In the Bible, it talks about how you had to be of a certain stature, a certain height, of a certain complexion, mm-hmm. of a certain build, of a certain skill set to serve in the house. Mm-hmm. And if you was of that Levite, of those Levites, you had no worries. Mm-hmm. Your job was to tend to the house, make sure that the music is right mm-hmm. for the services. The church took care of your bills. They took care of your living expenses, your food, everything. Mm-hmm. Do you see that going on today for the church musician?
Absolutely not.
Why is that? Is it because the church don't know about that in the Bible?
You know, it's getting really sticky. I like it. There's different interpretations of the Bible, unfortunately. You can go to 5 different Church of God in Christ churches and read the scripture or passage, and they'll interpret it differently. So I can't say what the churches know. I just can say how it is.
Gotcha.
From my perspective, they could very well know that it should be a certain way and twist it so that it's their way. That happens. That's. I said there's dirt in the church. there is. It's. There's a reason why there's this show called Preachers of LA right now. It's surfacing. So to that end, if in fact the churches did do that or would do that. Now don't get me wrong. I know of churches that do, where that is your full-time 40, 50, whatever hours a week. That's your job. Mm-hmm. But that's few and far between that I've seen. Most of it is, hey, can you come play? We'll throw you something. Can you come play? We'll throw you something. And that's, you get asked to play, you come play.
When they ask you to play and they use that common lingo, I'll take care of you, Doc. Mm-hmm. As we grow, you'll grow. Mm-hmm. I'll throw you something. Mm-hmm. I got you. Mm-hmm. Is that business? Is those business terms?
Bad business.
So why do we accept it?
We don't.
So when they say, I'll take care of you, do you go play? Or do you, what's the dollar? Or do you demand, what are you asking me to do? What are you paying for? Because that's our profession. That's how we live. Yeah. When the plumbing is out, hey man, come take care of my plumbing. I'll take care of you. I'll throw you something. Mm-hmm. Are they? Right. We got a leak in the roof. Come fix my roof. Mm-hmm. I'll take care of you, Doc. Mm-hmm. Do they talk like that in business? They need a service done.
Right.
Do they talk like that to anyone else? I've only seen it where they talk like that to musicians. Yeah. And we come running. About to go make this cheese, but you don't even know what you're about to make. Right. Why do you think we accept that?
He's like going to say something. Oh, it's coming to me.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
So are you saying someone is calling you to just come play for that night, or are you saying for good? Like,
you were in a service, the bishop's musician did not show up. Hey, Doc, I need you to come play for me. Come on. Now, let's say, I'm going to take care of you. He added that to it. Is that business?
I know. Well, yeah, like you said, I think that's bad business right there.
So why do we accept it? Why couldn't you just sit there and say, okay, you asking me, I didn't come here to play. I came here to enjoy the service. But you're asking me to get up and actually work now. I didn't come asking to come work. You asked me to come work. So why can't we sit there comfortably and say, okay, then what are you paying me? Yeah. Or are we scared of what. Oh, see, you all about the money.
Yeah.
You all about the service. You want my service.
Yeah, it's
Me personally, I feel. Me personally, you know, well, I feel because the voice of God actually he speaks to me. You know, so if he will say, you know, yeah, it's cool to go play. Well, it's cool to go play, but if he ain't speaking, then that's when I ask, you know, we got to sit down about this, and we gonna talk about, you know, what you giving me or what you paying me. It's and then at a certain extent, I'm not saying that it's all about the money, but like you said, I didn't come here to play. I came here to enjoy the service. You know
Okay,
what I'm saying?
yes.
So,
What about when you're at a guest church? You know the order when you're at a guest church. Their people are up first. Their musicians are on. Then your pastor is preaching. Now you're on. Once your pastor sit down, you should be able to get up. But when you look around, those musicians have left. So now you're stuck on the organ.
yeah.
Should you get compensated for that? Or should you get up? Because what we came to do, that portion is over and done with.
Me personally, I just keep flowing in the spirit.
Okay. So it's a spiritual thing, more so for you. Not to say that it's wrong. Remember, I'm just posing the questions. Okay.
yeah, it's there's this combination of thing that happens in church between the business and their spirit. So there's certain times where you might get asked to serve, and depending on the spirit of the person asking and your relationship and your connection with them, you would do it or you would not. You may do it for your going rate, if you got a going rate, or you might say, hey, whatever you got, just bless me, or hey, don't worry about it. I've been in all three scenarios, and it's it's a case by case situation, really.
Okay.
I don't have like a going rate to where I'm not coming unless you hit me with this. I still go play places for free all over the place because I just want to go play music.
Very true. I'm glad that you said that. Do they see that?
I think it's taken for granted a lot of the times.
You think it's taken for granted?
Taken for granted. The fact that we are actually there to serve, and we have such a big responsibility as far as ushering in and flowing in the whole service, like you were saying. There's a lot of time that goes into that on the back end. There's practice. You know, you traveling, you got gas. That's your time where you could be doing something else, making money. And so I feel like a lot of times it can be taken for granted. Not always, but it can be taken for granted.
When you say you go and play, sometimes you do it for free. Sometimes it's like, because I have a relationship with you, you know, if you can give me something, because right now my current situation, my financial current situation, I need, you know, da-da-da-da. But when you go over here, you don't know me, but you just know I can play. And I've done, you know, free, little. Okay, I need to charge you.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you're looked upon like, oh, you all about the money of it. And now you're trying to protect your name. Because your name is all that you have. Right. Once that's trash, in this profession of job/ministry, no, you all about the money. Yeah. So is it an unfair thing that you have to be so protective? Everybody should be protective to a certain point, but it's been my experience as a musician, you got to take a higher level of protection, because I still got a full family to, you know, take care of at home, and you're asking me to come do something that, for me personally, I went to school for. I've paid money on lessons. I've sat up, burnt the midnight oil. You don't know what kind of muscle cramps I had, you know, getting the dexterity and all this stuff, and getting to a level to where I can charge this level. Just like any other person that you perfected your craft so you can make the big dollars. I heard an old musician. He was about 60, and this was about 15 years ago. He said, I want the finer things in life too. Why should I have to suffer? I want to wear a new suit. I want to be able to, after church, be able to take my family out and sit down. This is what I do. This is what you hired me for. So it becomes kind of a scary thing when you put a price on it, and let's say your price is $500. You want $500? And then they, you know, treat you or look at you any kind of way. That's just been my little thing. Should the church musicians start a union? And if you don't know what a union is, young man, it's a representation, just like when you're working at GM. You got grievance against your boss. And before they can ever fire you or come at you like I use your example of how the bishop came at you. If the church musicians had a union, you have representation. You can call and say, Bishop so and so yelled at me, and he asked me to help him, and he embarrassed me in front of so many people, and I want to file a financial grievance against him, which he should have to compensate me for that. Those are that's just one of millions of things that a union will represent, but also for a union, you got to pay your union dues every month. And that could be like $25, $30 a month. But should the church musicians have a union so that all the things that you go through, you have representation? Because the church musician stands alone. When Jamel Ishmael, go before church and, hey, I'm going to play for United Ways Baptist Church, that's me going before the pastor, his deacon board, his ministerial board, his congregation, and I'm on the other end of the table by myself. Might have my wife and my children. That's it. I'm trying to be impressive enough, but not sell out, so I can get the job. But at any given time when they want to have a grievance against me, I'm going up against the whole church. So if I had union representation, then it's like, I ain't got to fight this battle. My union fights it. So should church musicians have a union? Or should we be able to handle things as men on the spiritual matters?
I would just say stay humble.
Stay humble?
Yeah, I mean, if you want representation, I would say you can maybe have a manager. I mean,
okay.
Unions have positive lights and they also have negative lights too. Because, right, you wouldn't want a union fighting for someone who is being lazy on the job, not doing the job correctly, but they know they got their union to back them. So if something gets filed against them, they all good because they tied into the union or whatever. So I would say there probably shouldn't be, just because of the politics that will be involved. I used to work for Chrysler, so I've done.
Same here.
Okay, so with the UAW,
yes.
There's a lot of politics that happens between that makes things very much stickier than it needs to be.
Yes.
I'm all about KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
Exactly.
So when you bring more parties to the table, different interests start getting involved. So for the sake of fighting for the musicians, their livelihood or on their behalf, it's good. But for all the other stuff that comes with it, I don't necessarily see the benefit.
What's the ideal, and this is out of your mind, what's the ideal relationship between the musician and the pastor that you've seen naturally or you wish to see their relationship? What would that look like to you if the musician and the pastor was tight, whether it be father, son, or, hired in this person? What would that relationship look like? Holding hands, skipping through a field of daisies, color purple out there, what? Fighting at the club, strip club.
In some cases. It's
like, hey.
No, I don't know.
I do. What would that ideal relationship look like? Or does it exist? Have you seen example?
In some cases, it's strong. In the case of like a father-son, that's very typical. Like father's pastor, son's the musician. But you can talk to that some more because it kind of extends into the father-son bound. So, but to me, it's just open communication. If the musician's brought on to to produce a certain sound or do that job, pastor says, hey, this is kind of what I'm looking for. You have that upfront meeting or what have you, and let them know what their bounds are. You're over everything. You're in charge of the choir. You're in charge of the praise team. You're in charge of everything. Like, this is your domain. If the pastor has something to say about it, then communication needs to happen more frequently on a one-on-one basis, not in front of the congregation, as to what the issues are and how you can maybe work together to fix them. But other than that, I've seen both spectrums. I've seen where the pastor is very musically inclined. Maybe they used to play, and they're very hands-on. They might be at rehearsals. They might be just very involved in, y'all should do this song, y'all should do this song. In other places where the pastor's like, I'm bringing somebody on to take care of this. You do it, and they never bat an eye at the musician. They were just very appreciative just to even have a musician.
Care to speak on that, or okay? Who are you mentoring, or are you mentoring anyone? We all, whether it's direct or indirect, we're mentoring someone because someone is always looking to you like you was looking to someone. So in the decisions that you are making in your life as a church musician, whether you see it okay or not, are you directly mentoring someone and you're teaching them, sharing the knowledge with them? If not, then who do you think you are indirectly mentoring, and do you think that you are doing a good job at it? In other words, it's a Sankofa bird. What are you leaving behind for the next generation? Start with you because he's been starting a lot.
Right, I'm tired of starting. I keep looking over you like, say something, bro. Dang.
I mean, I could just say, shoot, I really don't know if I'm mentoring anyone because I haven't,
Brought no one personally up under.
I can say that I'm being a great example for the youth that's under me, that's coming up as I'm growing up too. So I can say I am being a great leader.
Has anyone ever asked you that before? Who are you mentoring? And you are mentoring someone. It's like they ask the question and then they give you the knowledge on. You are mentoring someone whether you think you are or not, because somebody 3, 4, 10, 16, 25 is looking at you and it's like, wow, or ugh, either or. Has anyone ever pointed that out to you in your life?
Not that I know of. I can't.
Okay. How does that question make you feel now that, does it seem true, first of all?
Yeah.
Okay, how does that make you feel now that somebody is watching me? Oh yeah, because I was watching such and such and such and such. How does that make you feel coming into that knowledge of light?
It will. I feel,